It was day 2 of the isotope shooting trial on Tuesday that featured tear-jerking testimony from one of the victims who was involved. Today marks the 70th anniversary of the fatal crash of TWA Flight 260. Oil and gas operators are fighting House Bill 259, which would increase daily civil penalties for violating the Oil and Gas Act. The city of Albuquerque is preparing for next year's Route 66 centennial, and a local athlete from here in New Mexico was awarded Gatorade National Player of the Year. From the Albuquerque Journal, this is the leading news. I'm Gino Gutierrez. It's Wednesday, February 19th, 2025, and I'll have all of those stories plus a look at Albuquerque's weather forecast coming up after this break.
This episode is brought to you by the Kirtland Partnership Committee. For 30 years, we've been dedicated to supporting, growing, and preserving the Kirtland National Security Complex. We work tirelessly to enhance military readiness, foster community partnerships, improve quality of life, and promote economic development right here in New Mexico. Join us in our mission to ensure that Kirtland remains a cornerstone of national security and a key provider of quality jobs and investment for all of Greater Albuquerque. Together, we can make a powerful impact. Kirtland Partnership Committee, proudly shaping the future of our national security for 30 years.
Tatiana Villegas testified in court on Tuesday about the terrifying attack that left her paralyzed and killed her 11-year-old cousin, Froylan Villegas. She recounted driving her family's Dodge Ram after a baseball game when gunfire erupted. A man stood through the sunroof of an SUV and fired at least 14 shots, striking her multiple times and fatally wounding Froylan. Villegas described the moment of the attack, feeling an electric shock before realizing she couldn't move her legs or breathe.
And I just remember not being able to move my legs, and I couldn't breathe. I was just trying to focus on breathing, and I just kept saying, cough, 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 cough. Then I remember an officer got there. He was like holding my arms, and I just remember hearing him say, "We have a victim with multiple gunshot wounds." And he would look at me and he'd keep looking at me, touching my face, like, "Don't close your eyes." And I thought I wasn't getting it.
At the hospital, doctors confirmed she had been shot 5 times, damaging her spine and puncturing a lung. Meanwhile, Froylan's mom and her infant son, also in the truck, miraculously survived despite bullets hitting the rear passenger door.
It was a very sad day in court. I've covered a lot of trials. This was one of the saddest trials I think I've ever covered.
Albuquerque Journal reporter Oliver Udebrook covers courts for the paper and was at the testimony on Tuesday.
2 men that are on trial, Nathan Garley and Jose Romero. According to the prosecutors, they mistook the Villegas truck for someone that they had had a beef with at the Isotopes Park and shot it up. Basically, the prosecution alleges that Nathan Garley stood up in the sunroof of his Durango and fired 14 rounds at the truck. And one of them killed an 11-year-old boy and the other paralyzed a woman who's now 25.
A third suspect who was also in the Dodge Durango, Daniel Isaac Gomez, is expected to testify against Romero and Garley later this week. During the trial, jurors also witnessed police footage capturing the chaotic aftermath, with Villegas pleading for help while her cousin lay dead beside her. Defense attorneys argue the evidence relies on unreliable witness testimony. The trial will continue this week, with the suspects facing murder and multiple felony charges. 70 years ago, on February 19, 1955, Trans World Airlines Flight 260 crashed into the Sandia Mountains just minutes after takeoff from Albuquerque, killing all 16 people on board. Longtime Albuquerque resident Linda Higgins, who was 5 at the time, recalls hearing the crash after seeing the plane flying unusually low. The Martin 404 prop plane headed for Santa Fe deviated from its intended course and flew east toward the mountains in heavy clouds. As the terrain warning bell sounded, the pilots attempted evasive action, but the aircraft struck a cliffside at 230 miles per hour. The wreckage was discovered 2 days later. Initially, the Civil Aeronautics Board blamed the pilots, but later an amended report classified the crash as, quote, unsolved, with no known reason for the course deviation. On the 70th anniversary, residents including Higgins attended a presentation at the Albuquerque Museum and hiked to the crash site, now known as, quote, TWA Canyon, where a memorial plaque remains. Albuquerque Journal reporter Kevin Ops Saul spoke with some of those who made the hike up to the crash site and shared with me earlier what they said.
Spoke to some of the rescuers. They said it became quite personal. They said they felt the closeness to the victims and their families, and it was an honor to recognize them 70 years later.
The event honored the victims and served as a reminder of life's unpredictability. Search and rescue teams carried flags representing each victim, holding a brief ceremony to commemorate those lost in one of Albuquerque's most tragic aviation disasters. In legislative news, New Mexico lawmakers are considering a major increase in penalties for oil and gas operators who violate environmental regulations. House Bill 259 proposes raising the maximum daily fine from $2,500 to $10,000 and increasing the total penalty cap from $200,000 to $2.65 million. The bill would also triple drilling applications from $500 to $1,500. Supporters of the bill argue the higher penalties will deter companies from treating fines as a cost of doing business while encouraging compliance with pollution regulations. Since 2019, the state has assessed $29 million in penalties but only collected $8 million, as officials often negotiate for corrective action rather than strict enforcement. Industry representatives oppose the bill, arguing it could threaten the solvency of smaller operators and discourage investment in New Mexico's oil and gas sector. Some Republican legislators also expressed concern about the arbitrary nature of the fee increases and the industry's financial future. The bill did pass its first House committee on a party line vote and will next be reviewed by the House Appropriations and Finance Committee. But despite this bill passing its first committee, Journal co-business editor Megan Gleason, who's covering the legislative session, explains the bill still faces an uphill battle.
This bill specifically, it was assigned to 3 different committees. And in the roundhouse, each additional committee it's assigned to makes it more difficult to get through the roundhouse. It's got to make it through these 3 House committees, and then the House floor, and then however many Senate committees it's assigned to, and then the Senate floor before it even lands on the governor's desk. So it's not a great sign that it was assigned to 3 committees.
Lawmakers are seeking more data on repeat offenders before moving forward. Albuquerque has launched a $34,000 website to promote the 2026 Route 66 Centennial Celebration, featuring a countdown and an event list. The announcement of the website took place at the city's long-delayed Route 66 Visitor Center, which is yet to open despite costing over $13 million. City officials, including Mayor Tim Keller and Councilor Carissa Pena, expressed excitement about using the center as a hub for centennial activities, though no official opening date has been set. The celebration comes as local law enforcement ramps up efforts to address crime along the historic highway. Operation Route 66, led by New Mexico State Police and the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, aims to curb homelessness and drug use in problem areas like the International District.
And Mayor Tim Keller alluded to those initiatives and said that, there needed to be crime-fighting efforts and a cleaning up of Central before the Centennial takes place.
We also want to do what we can to try and clean up Route 6 in all sorts of ways. And obviously that means things like crime fighting and that sort of thing, which we're going to try and do as best we can. That does mean cleaning up these hotels that have been huge problems on Route 66. They're symbols of decay and crime. We are going to do our best to at least end that cycle. Time, we can't just rebuild all that in 6 months, but we hope to draw a line that Route 66 is making a comeback, that Route 66 is being revitalized.
It should also be noted that the city's new encampment abatement policy targets encampments that are on Central Avenue. That's the top priority now, and it used to be community centers and parks in the past.
Journal reporter Noah Kalabach covers city government for the paper. As Albuquerque prepares for the landmark event, officials hope revitalization efforts will restore the highway's legacy while addressing ongoing challenges. If you like hearing all of the latest news from the Albuquerque Journal here on the Leading News, consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal. You can check our show notes for a discount code on a digital subscription and keep up with all the latest news from New Mexico's leading news source. And in sports news, Charlie Voss, a senior at Rio Rancho High School, was named the 2024-2025 Gatorade National Boys Cross Country Player of the Year, marking a historic achievement for New Mexico athletics. His surprise announcement was made extra special by Olympic runner Grant Fisher, who personally presented Voss with the trophy at his school's track facility. Voss, who moved to New Mexico from Ohio before the 2023-2024 school year, had an outstanding season, highlighted by his victory at the Nike Cross Country Nationals in Oregon, marking the first time a New Mexican won the prestigious race. Voss's latest accolade cements his legacy alongside Curtis Beach, who's the only other New Mexican to win a National Gatorade Award. Recently signed to Brigham Young University, Voss is gearing up for the 2025 track and field season, with major events like the Nike Indoor Nationals in New York on his schedule. Reflecting on the award during an interview with Journal Prep sports editor James Yodis, Voss said,
"I'm just beyond grateful for the place I am now and for everyone who's helped me get there. It's been such a journey."
Now taking a look at Albuquerque's weather forecast. Today you can expect sunny skies with a high near 60, and this evening partly cloudy with a low around 30. To keep up with all the latest news from the Albuquerque Journal, you can visit our website at abqjournal.com. I'm Gino Gutierrez. The leading news will be back tomorrow.